Welcome. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you something that I believe a lot of us, if you're in flight training, need to understand. And whether you're an instructor or you're a student, but I would focus more on the student side of things because I believe a lot of you that are watching my videos are generally people that are either planning to start flight training or people that are just maybe in the process of getting their license or ratings. Now, if you're new here, my name is Steven, and on this channel we focus on aviation. And if you are interested in that, of course, subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you find value in this video, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And in fact, you can do that right now. It's free. I appreciate it. Have you ever experienced this feeling of not understanding what is going on, not really getting a pace to this situation around you? Like, for example, especially in flight training, where a lot of things are happening, you're talking, you're flying, you're doing your maneuvers, your instructor is teaching you, you have all this bombardment of information coming at you, and you're unable to just focus and understand what you're doing. And then you finish that flight, your instructor debriefs you, gives you all these things to work on and things you didn't do well. And then you come back the next day and you do the same thing again. And it feels like, what is going on? Why am I not getting it? There is a reason why that is happening. Now, in as much as everyone do have the differences in their learning abilities, and if you see the learning curve, right, it starts slow, ramps up, and then it peaks at some point where you reach a plateau, and then sometimes you might actually start losing it, and sometimes it ramps up again from there. It all depends. We have our learning abilities and styles. But you also need to understand the importance of a good schedule. Why is schedule important? Well, the reason why it's important is because if you have a schedule that does not put you on track or in pace to keep up with what you're learning, you will lose what you're learning. Just like any skill that you're just learning. If you don't use it, you lose it. The other thing with you having a good schedule is if you are overloaded with too much information at once, guess what? You lose as many as well. Just think about it. If you're trying to drink from a fire hose, pretty much what will happen is most of the water is lost. Most of it is just flies around you. You don't get to actually get the most out of that water that is being thrown at you. And same thing goes with knowledge. If too much information is thrown at you at once, what will happen is that most of it is going to be lost. Before I actually tell you this, and I hope that you stick around, before I actually tell you this optimum schedule, this is coming from experience. This is coming from years of me instructing, for at least 4 or 5 years of me instructing. And this was something I also experienced as a student. So when I actually calculate or add all this up, I'm talking about years and years of me knowing why something is going on. And this is why, and this is not based on any research, this is just by my own experience as an instructor. So I want you to understand that there's no research paper that shows what is optimum. But based on what I've found, based on feedback over time, I've been able to gather this information. I have my notes right here, which I'll be referencing. The problems that would happen when you are not able to assimilate, all right, would be multiple training events. So for example, you may end up going for a flight, and what will happen is that you pretty much feel like you wasted your money. And I'm sure you've probably experienced this before. If you're an instructor or if you're a student, where you feel like you learned nothing from that flight. It was almost like you just went up, threw your money into fire, and nothing was gained. And that happens sometimes where you have that feeling, and that is not good. That is not something you want to experience again. The other problem with this is inability to understand what you're doing and why you do it. If you think about this, right, when you're doing something, whether it's a maneuver, whether it's even minor tasks at home, if you don't understand why, trust me, you will feel like you're wasting your time and you won't gain anything from it. The other thing is, you feel like you don't have enough time to prepare, okay? When you are not on an optimum schedule, this is what I'm saying, okay? These are the problems that will happen. You feel like you don't have enough time to learn. You feel like you don't have enough time to prepare. You feel like there's just so much going on. And all of this will end up leading to something that I've seen affect a lot of people. And that is lack of motivation or loss of interest. Remember, these two are different. Let me focus on the lack of motivation to start with. When you have a student, if you're an instructor or if you're a student and you're feeling like you don't feel like reading, or you don't, and I'm not talking about laziness, okay? That's a different type of problem entirely, but I'm talking about just not having the motivation to pick up the book and study because you feel like you're just not getting the results that you deserve, right? That can lead to lack of motivation. Now, the other side of this, which is the extreme case, is lack of, or loss of interest. Okay? And this is the worst part, because when you have a student that had a dream of becoming a pilot, wearing that uniform, wearing that hat, whatever that may look like to you, and then you all of a sudden find that student not even wanting to show up for flight. That happens. And some of them actually quit. And if you look at the statistics, a lot of people that start their private, even though they had the plans of getting their commercial and working as a professional pilot, majority of them end up not achieving that goal. And it's not necessarily because of money, which sometimes money could be a factor, but most of these people that actually had the money, it was just the lack or loss of motivation. Let me use that correctly. Loss of motivation. When you lose interest, nothing can really, ignite it again. Maybe over time they may reignite that interest or that passion, but that is something you have to be careful about. What are the rewards? What are the rewards of having this optimum schedule, which I'll be sharing with you in a few minutes? The first thing is the better understanding of each lesson and each maneuver. When you understand what you're doing, you understand where you are, you understand where you are going, and you see the end result. Okay, a good example is there was a time when you thought slow flight, and then you understand, why are we doing all these maneuvers? I won't be doing this when I'm flying passengers. I've seen that, I've heard that before. Or why are we doing stalls? I won't be doing all these things when I'm flying passengers. But there's a result for that. Your slow flights could help you in your landings. Your slow flights could help you in your pattern. All these things tend to tie together at the end of the day. But if you don't have an understanding, you have very little interest in learning. The other thing is you have an increased motivation and increased passion to learn. If you think about this, right? If you remember your first riding of bicycle. At the beginning, of course, you probably just thought it was fun, right? But as time went on, you realize that, you could go see your friend. Now you could be able to ride to exercise. You could ride to your friend to a playground. Things like that helps to ignite the passion, because you have you have that new renewed interest. Okay, you have the renewed interest and eagerness to learn, because you've now seen what is possible. And of course, the biggest part of this is, and we call it correlation in aviation or in flight training, but it's the ability to make connections and apply what you've learned in real life, whether it's in aviation or not. Think about what we call situational awareness, having the accurate perception of your environment in different phases of flight, right? This is not something that you need in aviation. You need it while you're driving. You need it while you're in your house. You need it while you're in the movie theaters, wherever you are. You need this awareness. And these concepts do tie in together. If you have the understanding that you're supposed to get at that point in training, it helps to make the journey easier. So what is this optimum schedule that I'm talking about? I want you to understand something. In a 7-day week, all right, in 1 week, which is 7 days, if you can have about 3 flights at least, that will be the optimum schedule right there. 3 flights. You can go from 3 to 4, but anything more than this can become a little too much. And I'm talking about, this is for people that are in there on their private course or instrument. When you get a commercial, you can ramp things up a little bit more if you choose, but the optimum for people on their private course that I have seen that has really worked is about 3 to 4. If the student is really picking things up, you put it to 4. If the student is struggling, put it down to 3. And I'm talking about the flight lessons in particular. If you are thinking of doing multiple flights a day on your private course without any prior experience, this can lead to oversaturation. Now, on the days that you are off, you should focus on doing the grounds. You should focus on doing some other lessons that are not related to flight. Okay, the flight portion itself is what I'm really focused on in this case, which is why I said the flight training, not the ground training of things. In order for this to work, you need to understand these few things. The first is you need to understand your student if you're an instructor, and if you're a student, you need to understand your instructor's teaching styles. If you're an instructor, you need to understand your students' learning styles, okay? Because if you understand these dynamics between the two of you, how you can teach and how your student learns, then it makes the process a beautiful one. This will go a long way, by the way, because as an instructor and student, you are almost like a mentor, right? So if you understand how you can teach your student to understand the concepts that you are passing on, this will go a long way. Prepare your students 4 lessons ahead and give them some work to do when they are not in school or when they are not in training. As you're concluding your lessons, as you're finishing your debriefs, of course, give them what to expect for the next lesson. But most importantly, think about what you can give them to work on. And I'm talking about, when it comes to the next flight lesson that you'll be doing, so that they are well ahead. The next thing for you as a student is to chair fly on the days that you are not flying. And I'm not talking about going over all the maneuvers, right? But let's say you are struggling with a particular maneuver, spend 5-10 minutes just to sit down and go over this, because this will go on a long way when you then go back on schedule. Ask questions that you don't understand. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to seek knowledge from friends that may know more than you do, from other instructors that maybe are your friends, or maybe they are just your acquaintances at the school. Try to get that other side of things, because your instructor may be saying something, but just by changing one word in what he's saying can actually make the connection for you. That is very important. I've experienced it and I have seen it myself, where just by changing one word in what this instructor is saying makes that connection for you. Now, if you are in your 30s and in your 40s and you haven't seen my videos about the pros and cons of starting your training in your 30s and 40s, then I advise that you check it out here.